Something with the bomb. Jazz is like yellow pudding. Stick ball. Okay, yellow man, little thing with the guy comes out of the face, and he's like, ooh, what you girl cooking, Joe? What is the rap music? They're hipping, a little hopping, a little bit, a little bopping, so they don't know what the jazz is all about. You see?
I apologize for not making a video for a little bit. The last one was the Tom and Jason plays. I just been kind of chillaxing, kind of mellowed out, just playing games, hanging out. I haven't really had ideas rolling yet, and when a couple do kind of come back, I gotta remember to write them down. But when some of them do come back, I do want to bring some familiar faces back to help me record or just set up the video, so definitely stay tuned for that. But today, I mean, this is going to be in the rant video category. I don't know where else to put it. But this isn't really a rant, but me just talking about something that I really hold dear to me. Something that whenever I'm kind of down, whenever I'm depressed, angry, upset, sad, I usually, for more reasons or not, turn to this. I turn to video games. For as long as I've lived, I've always had an interest with video games, stuff moving on the screen, me controlling this character from a different world and getting to experience what they're doing on the screen. And me having, like, kind of like put myself in their shoes in a way with certain games. And that's always been like an escape for me. It's always been like an amazing feeling just to watch something outside of the real world, to escape my problems. I want to experience what these guys are going through. And sometimes it will actually help me in the real world, and it can make me realize stuff. So for today's video, I just wanted to talk about the games that shaped me into the person I am today, and also thank some of the games that helped me out through my life. So ever since when I was a little kid, the very first game I've ever played was Sonic 2. And I was very, very, very young, and this was on my uncle's old Genesis at my really, really old house. The first house where I actually got a fear of spiders. That's gone now. But I remember Sonic 2 always being, like, hard. It was difficult, but for me being so young that I can remember, I liked the challenge. I liked trying to get past Chemical Plant Zone, and I just, that was the one hurdle that I had to face when I was a kid, and I love Chemical Plant Zone now. But much later on, we got a PlayStation 1, my father did, and that was, if there was two systems that I could bare bones to say that defined my childhood, PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2. Those two systems are everything to me. I don't have a PlayStation 1 anymore, but I love the system so much that I want to go out of my way to rebuy a system, even though I have a PS2 at my house right now, and I can just play PS1 games on it. But I just love the PS1 so much that I want to go out of my way and to get that. Now, most of the games I played on PS1 were mostly kid games. It was like Toy Story 2, Stuart Little 2. There's a lot of numbers, so be prepared for that. Stuart Little 2, and it was like Scooby-Doo, Cyber Chase. I remember that being a game. But there was a lot of kids games I used to play, and SpongeBob. Super Sponge, which is a definitely unique one. But one of the two games that I can always remember me always going back to, no matter what, was Crash Bandicoot 3 and Tekken 3, and I can explain why these mean so much to me. So for starters, Crash Bandicoot 3, I got this game at a really weird time. My mother was in the hospital and I was a wee lad. I was very, very, very upset. I was like really sad about what was going on, and my father wanted to try and cheer me up, and this is how me playing video games to escape the tough times of reality kind of like opened up for me. He took me to the hospital's gift shop, which I'm not joking, they actually had games there, and he told me I can pick one thing. It didn't matter what it was, he'll buy it for me, I just had to pick one thing. So I'm wiping the tears from my eyes and looking around, and I come across this. And I ask him, can we get this? And it drawed my eyes, like especially on the back, and seeing like the different stuff you can do, like the bike, the jet ski, the plane. It saw variety in it, and I was interested in that. So we bought it, and we went back home, and we were playing it a lot. And it sounds weird. Like, every time I tell the story, everyone's like, oh, you just bought it, and your mom was, like, really sick or something, and I'm like, I tell this story joyfully because it helped me escape reality, and it kind of opened up to how I approach games and how I appreciate games nowadays. It's my second favorite game of all time. It's been there for me. And when they remade it with the Insane Trilogy, I obviously would have a lot of criticisms of it. And I still do. But Crash Bandicoot 3, always up there. But to one of my favorite games of all time, which kind of lead me down this fighting game path that I can't escape from. I'm urged to always buy like a fighting game and always see what's new with fighting games. I'm upset that I'm not really that strong within the community, but trust me, I really want to change that one day. But this game right here is my favorite game of all time, and it got me to how I can like be good at games. Especially when this was not really mine. This was my father's game, but this is a rebought one. The old one is gone. I never took good care of the CDs back then. I was that kind of child. But Tekken 3 really, because my father, he worked a lot. He was a tattoo artist. He worked a lot. So I asked him one day, can we play this? I really want to play this with you. He was like, how about this? If you can beat the game on this hardest difficulty, on arcade mode, then I can fight you. And I'm like, okay. I got frustrated, and yes, I did have to stop playing, and I played other stuff like Crash 3, Spyro 3, Toy Story 2. Those were the games I played a lot on PS1. But I've always tried to go back to this and do that challenge he's always told me to do. I always had to go back and be like, I gotta do this. I have to do it. So many years later that I can remember, I finally did it. And I walked up to him and I'm like, alright, done. Wanna play this now? And he was like, what are you talking about? And I playing the game to him, and I'm like, you said I had to beat this on the hardest difficulty. Okay, I did it. Can we play now? And he's just like, what? No, you didn't. And funny enough, I did it again just to show him. But this is one of the games that hooked me to fighting games. I challenged myself to try and beat it on that hardest difficulty. Heihachi was harder than Ogre, by the way. I'm gonna say that now. How long in this game for life, by the way. But that ends the PS1 era of games for me. And later on, I never got a 360 until like 2012, 2011, something like that. It was way early on that I can remember. Me getting like those next gen systems. I always just went to the classics. Go for the classics, is what I always say. But around that lifetime, I kind of had the urge to keep playing some fighting games, but I didn't know what to do. What games should I look at? And I was really big on Marvel at the time. I played a lot of Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2. And I had a lot of Spider-Man games. I think I had one X-Men game too. And I played those games relentlessly. So, one day when I was scouring the internet, because I used to like going on like CartoonNetwork.com and Newgrounds. I like playing Flash games on there and watching some really weird cartoons. And I always went on YouTube just to listen to music, actually, just because I inherited my father's skill of just drawing stuff. So whenever I like drawing, I like listening to music in the background. And I came across something called Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Spider-Man's theme, and I'm like, it says, I clicked on it, and I looked at all the Marvel roster, and I'm just like, whoa. All these guys have their own, like, individual theme songs? That's really cool. That's, like, really freaking awesome. But on the Capcom side, I was like, what the hell is a Capcom? The only thing that I can remember always knowing of Capcom is Vega. I saw this one clip of a Street Fighter 4 tournament, and Vega was just whooping on this Chun-Li's ass. I can't remember what the hell it was. I could be entirely wrong, but I remember Vega was doing really well. And that was the only thing I knew of Capcom, but I didn't know that and Capcom were one and the same. Like, it was a Capcom game. So I'm looking at all these Capcom characters, and I'm like, I don't know who these are, but they're really cool looking. It's the total opposite of CVS2, SNK vs. Capcom. Or Capcom vs. SNK 2. Leave me alone. It's like the opposite of that. A lot of people knew Capcom, but they didn't know the SNK guys. But they find the SNK guys so interesting that they want to find out where they came from and play some of their games. And that's what led me down the path of Capcom. I found a guy online called Maximilian Dude, and I still watch him and appreciate all the videos he's ever made, because he got me furthermore into fighting games. He got me more like in depth, and you can keep exploring into these fighting games. And that led me to actually buying Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And I played those two games a lot. But I was always itching with the Capcom side. I'm like, where does Morgan come from? Where does Tron Bonne come from? Where does Jill come from? Where does Wesker come from? Where do all these guys come from? Like Dante and all those people. But I eventually, while I had a PSP at the time, I played Capcom Classic Collection Remix. And this later on, and this is what got me down being a huge Capcom fan. I adore Capcom, and this is what led me to other genres of games like beat 'em up, side scrollers, and other fighting games that I never heard of and stuff. And I had a more appreciation of older games, and the Capcom style drew me to that. And that's what led me down the path to other fighting games like King of Fighters, Mortal Kombat, Samurai Showdown, Injustice, and all these other games that I hold fondly and everything. But big shout outs to Maximilian for really introducing me to more of fighting games, and I appreciate that the holy hell. And as I got older, I always, when I was young, I always liked action games. I just like jumping into a game and just kind of just going for it. I never liked reading. I hated the subject of English. I hate reading a lot, so I never liked RPGs. My uncle was a huge RPG guy, and I just never could get into any of those games. Never. But later on down the line, as I got older, I enjoyed reading backstories of games, and games like Medieval for PlayStation and everything. I liked reading some of the backstories of Galamir and Sir Daniel, and just reading bios for another game like Twisted Metal. I liked reading like the character bios and where they come from. Shout outs to Bruce, I like him. Thumper. Then I just remembered about the RPG stuff, and my uncle was like really into them, and I'm like, oh yeah, doesn't my dad have a RPG game? And I remember I did, and it was Final Fantasy V. Played that for a little bit on the PS1. It was the PS1 version, and I wasn't getting into it, so I took a break from RPGs. And then later on, I bought Final Fantasy VII. And that's what really got me down the path of RPGs. I wanted to play more of them. I wanted to play different types of RPGs. I wanted to see what they were all about. And I just enjoyed reading, and it felt like I was more with the characters than any of the other games when I was reading it, for some odd reason. So Final Fantasy 7 and 10 really honed that in for me. I did used to play Kingdom Hearts back in the day, but believe it or not, I never read anything of that game. I made it to the end. I kept losing to Riku a lot, but I played that game, and that was the first technical RPG I've ever played, but I never read it. It was more action-packed. That's what I liked about it. But seeing where the roots came from, this and Final Fantasy X is a really good games. And also Final Fantasy IV, great game as well. Now I'm kind of like done with my teen years, and I'm off of high school and everything, and I'm still like so super into games and everything. And I just wanted to keep like opening up my horizons to different stuff. Guilty Gear I find, and I love playing that game, especially Strive. And I just want to keep going into different genres. Like when I play Smash Brothers, I wanted to keep playing like different characters from that game series, so I kind of followed the path to like Metal Gear and Fire Emblem with Link and everything. And some friends at school kind of like sold me what the games were about, and I'm like, hey, it's kind of like my kind of genre I'm looking for. So I jumped into it, and I really enjoyed it. And one friend I'm gonna get another shout out to, Roy, he tried to show me some Persona stuff a long time ago. It was Persona 4 Arena. It was a fighting game, but I'm like, I don't know who these characters are, so why would I care? That was my mindset. But I always had that on my mind about Persona, and I'm like, why is this always sticking with me? Why can I not get Persona out of my head when he was talking about it? Just because it sounded really interesting. And later on, like many years later, I had to go for foot surgery, and I was laid up. So my mom's boyfriend was asking, hey, I feel bad for all this. You want like a Christmas present? And I'm like, you didn't have to get me one, but if you insist, sure. So, and that was when I got Persona 5, and games can change you in any time period, in my opinion. Like, as a kid, it could, Crash 3 changed me. When I was a teen, fighting games and Capcom games changed me. And now that I'm an early adult, Persona changed me, and it got me into the Persona and SMT series. It's just, keep opening up your horizons. It's like, I want to play the new Metroid game, the new Bayonetta game, the new Spider-Man game for PS4. I want to play all these new versions of the already existing properties. You gotta open up your, horizons more. Just try it out. If you don't like it, like I said in my Get Good video, if you don't like the game, then don't really bother with it. You don't have to, play it. But if you are enjoying the game, And if you like really like it, keep going with it. Just keep going. It's like if you're not sure on buying the game, if a friend has it, try it at a friend's house. And try a demo if it's available. It's many opportunities and things you can do just to at least try it out. So, this video has gone on for long enough. Pretty long video, guys, but I just wanted to say all this. I didn't have any other ideas lately to talk about, so I wanted to open up about just games in general and what made me into what I am today. Those were all the ones that I gave for example, and there are many other games that I love to play that I haven't mentioned, and that's okay. There are lots of fantastic games out there, and there are lots of not so fantastic games out there, but we all have opinions, and that's okay. Those were the games that defined me. If there are any games that defined you maniacs out there, I would really love to know. Link in the description below, and or just comment down below. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. And if there are any ideas, like if you like this video and you want to hear more about my experiences with certain games, I am very sweaty, it's very hot. If you want to know about different experiences from me, or just want to hear about different games and types in general, comment, really. I want to expand on my YouTube library than just streaming ass rants. I mean, I wanted to do more than just that. So please, let me know. So that's gonna do it for today's video, maniacs. Thank you for watching, and again, I am gonna be trying to plan our new video coming out soon. So like, comment, subscribe, and stay crazy. Thank you for watching. Peace out. And for some of the people out there, some of the guys, the gals, the Germans that did not like me just talking all calmly and nice, I don't fucking care! What the hell is a Capcom?